Oh, Joy Behar. She hit a new low today. Haven't we said that before a few times? Well, she was attacking the Christian faith of Vice President Mike Pence. Well, why not? It's so easy to do, especially right as we're getting into Lent. Just listen to these comments today on The View.
It's one thing to talk to Jesus. It's another thing when Jesus talks to you.
Exactly. Okay, wait, that's different.
That's called mental illness, if I'm not correct.
Right,
I'm hearing voices.
I'll tell you one voice I wish I never had to hear again. Let's get a true view from Monica Crowley of the London Center for Policy Research in New York. And from Madison, Wisconsin, of course Madison, Wisconsin, Dan Barker, the co-president of the Freedom from Religion Foundation. It's great to see both of you. Let's talk about this Joy Behar deal. I always like to say, why do they not ever try this stuff on Muslims? I mean, it's always like the Christian conservative guy or gal who gets hit with this stuff. Occasionally the Catholics get it across the face too, but they never really do this with the Muslims. They always focus on the Christians. Dan.
I do it with Muslims. I've debated 8 or 9 Muslim scholars, and I've said the very same thing. The belief in their Allah is just as delusional as the Christian belief in Yahweh. And so it's not just Christians, it's anybody who has a delusional idea that the dictator of the cosmos is talking to them. That's dangerous.
Monica.
Laura, whose voice would you rather hear on a regular basis, Joy Behar's or Jesus's? I'll take Jesus any day. Look, the truth is that if the vice president were Muslim and he came out publicly and said he regularly converses with Allah, Joy Behar would be celebrating that point. The left is constantly positioning themselves as champions of diversity and tolerance. They respect everyone's beliefs. Unless you're a conservative and or a Christian, in which case you have the wrong beliefs and you are to be mocked and roundly dismissed. The only extremist here is Joy Behar and the rest of the crew on The View that took the opportunity to take cheap shots at the vice president and, by the way, his personal relationship with Jesus, which is the essence of Christianity.
Hey, Dan, I was always wondering if the Freedom from Religion found, like, how do you guys meet, or is it just you? I mean, do you guys have meetings, and what do you do?
We
at your
have
meetings? Conferences?
Sure, we have national meetings. Our next conference will be in San Francisco, of course, in November.
Oh, that's a shock.
We have more than
moving on to
32
Boulder after San Francisco, and then we're going to Austin, Texas, and then we're going to finish up in Cambridge. Then we'll have the final meeting in Washington, D.C. I'm just teasing. Like, I'm doing to you what's not fair, Dan, because you're so fun, especially around the Christian holidays. So you're such a fun person. I do not want to ridicule you. I'm really glad you're on the show. But I want to play for both of you what the gals on The View were discussing about what Omarosa, the former White House aide, said last night on Celebrity Big Brother. Watch.
We would be begging for days of Trump back if Pence became president. That's all I'm saying. He's extreme. I'm Christian. I love Jesus. But he thinks Jesus tells him to say things that I'm like, Jesus ain't say that. It's scary.
Even the other contestants on the Celebrity, whatever that is. What is that, Big Brother? I didn't even know that was still on. Monica, poor Omarosa. I mean, I think she's become her own character in her own continuing reality show, but even the other people didn't seem to buy what she was saying.
Yeah, I mean, the national discussion, the parameters of which should never be defined by Omarosa. I want to make a bigger point here, Laura, which is, the sickness of the left is that they think that they're God. And this was something that was done to great effect by the communists who banned God, made it illegal to worship in any way, and elevated the state to replace God. And the American Democrats have adopted so much of that, where the state is them, and they think that they're in a position of omnipotence, and therefore God is irrelevant, and anybody who believes in Jesus or God is a fool to be targeted and mocked. But again, it's only Christianity that you see, sometimes with Judaism, but primarily Christianity. They look at that as a tool of the weak to be mocked and dismissed, and it is gross and disgusting and should be rejected in all of its forms.
Hey, Dan, when Obama was over there with Rick Warren at his church in California, when Hillary spoke at various churches during her campaign, even Al Gore, I believe, appeared at a church. Were you know, did that keep you up at night? Were you really worried about that? Or I don't remember you speaking out when Obama was doing that kind of stuff.
Well, we did. We complained about religion mixing with our secular government in any way. And of course, Omarosa's point was strong. Omarosa is a Christian. It's a Christian criticizing other Christians. When I was a Christian evangelical minister, I used to think God was talking to me until I realized, well, everybody thinks God's talking to them and nobody agrees with each other. It's really dangerous for one person, especially a secular governmental leader, to think that he's getting direction from something that we cannot confirm. He can have his views. If he wants to pray to Jesus or Mother Goose or Allah or whatever,
Dan,
that's America.
Just so I'm clear, you must be really offended by most of George Washington's seminal speeches to the country and to his troops, correct?
We're not offended by personal views. I'm not offended. I think Mike Pence has sincere
he
personal
summoned
views
the
like I
Almighty.
did.
Oh, no. Washington summoned the Almighty, both for inspiration and protection of our troops and our nascent republic. So that was,
Laura,
you know. So does that bother you?
Well, George Washington was not the kind of Christian that the evangelical right would embrace today.
Oh, yeah.
But you do know that
you can go back to your special time travel machine and figure that out, Dan. Come on.
Yes, we do know that. Yes, we do know that,
You do know what George Washington would believe. Okay.
He did not take
I bet on
communion.
George Washington having a lot more respect for Mike Pence than hanging out with a bunch of atheists who complain every Easter, Christmas, and
Laura,
Lent that they're offended
you're
by
exaggerating
everything.
here. Laura,
not
you know
exaggerating.
you're exaggerating.
No, you know what, Dan? You know I'm not exaggerating because your idea of bravery is putting up a billboard and insulting Christians. That's your idea of a brave statement. We support you. We'll have you on the show. I'm glad you have the right to speak out. But that's not courageous and brave. That's just being a pain in the backside because you know every time a Christian holiday comes along, you'll get invited on TV. That's your right to do it, but it's not brave and it's not courageous. And we'll pray for you regardless of what you believe.
You invited me, Laura. You know my views and you invited me. You do know, Laura, that tens of millions of good Americans do not believe in a God.
Absolutely.
We pay our taxes.
I never said otherwise. We're talking about someone who goes on TV and mocks someone for his faith. You go on television and you mock someone for their sexual preference and you'll never work again. You go on TV and you mock someone for their faith and you get the applause and the love of the elites and maybe some groups like yours. But we're out of time, guys. Great segment as always, and we'll have you back. We both have to have you on radio. It'd be fantastic.